Good morning. It's Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. This is attempt number 2 at making this video. As I said earlier, I I haven't posted one of these in quite a while. I'm not sure how long it's been. I'll have to check my channel. Most of the time, it's just because I am way too tired in the morning. I can't think straight. I do like posting these, not only because I love to hear the sound of my own voice, but because I've noticed a correlation between if I talk about my plans, like the various projects that I mentioned that I'm working on at home. If I mention them in these videos, I have a tendency to get them done, at least faster. So not that I have any that I'm going to list now. I mean, there's just the typical stuff. Some of it, like, it's going to get done no matter what. Like the next big project is, of course, closing the pool for the season, which I've started. But again, if you've been keeping up on the progress of the pool, I let it get away from me again. So it's a big cleanup job. It's gone. It's got a lot of algae in it. So it's going to take me about a week to get that clean, so that I can get it ready for closing. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about projects. Blah blah blah. Yeah, like I said, most of the time in the morning, like I am way too tired to think about trying to talk, and I know a lot of those videos, like probably 99.8% of them, end up being very, very boring because it's just me droning on in a very tired voice about how tired I am, and maybe a little bit of belly aching about work, which is mostly because it's a roughly 2-hour drive to and from. So I have to get up crazy early, which explains why I'm so tired all the time on my way into work. Which brings me to my point. Yesterday, I got home from work, had a bowl of soup, and went to bed, and didn't get up until it was time to get up for work today. There's an old phrase my mother always used to say: you can't catch up with sleep. I never really knew what that meant. I still don't know what that means, but I know she's right. You can't catch up with sleep. It's probably why older people are tired all the time. They missed some sleep and they never caught up. So the viewer of this channel, I know there's a couple of things I was supposed to make for you, and I still haven't gotten good prototypes slapped together yet. Turns out that the mirroring surfaces, all the mirroring surfaces I have in my house are trash. I do have some nice mirror, but I don't have a way of cutting it. I've got strips of mirror. I don't even know what they're from. They kind of remind me of, like, if you've ever seen an open-faced medicine cabinet where the back is lined with mirror. Kind of reminds me of that, but they're really tall and they're really long, so I don't know. I mean, when I say tall, like maybe 2 to 3 inches tall, but they're like really long, like a couple of feet, and I can't imagine it's actually from a medicine cabinet. I don't know what they're from, but I have them. But they're not one-way mirrors, they're just mirrors, so I'd have to, do that, drill the thing and open up a little section of it, and I'd prefer to do it with two-way mirrors. The other material I have, the plastic mirrors, they're really old, and they were either never really good to begin with, or over time the chrome paint or whatever it is that's on the back of the plexiglass has gotten kind of foggy. I originally bought them for a pair of binoculars. I forget what they're called. I saw them once on TV, YouTube. There's this guy, he has a channel and he collects curiosities, various toys, and one of the things he had, they couldn't really show what it did on the episode because you need binocular vision for it to work. But what it is, it's a set of binoculars, and what it does is it replaces what your left eye sees with your right eye sees, and it's a pretty basic design. I made one once with these plastic mirrors. I cut them into little things, but it was a very bad prototype, and it didn't hold up. I had 2 pieces of wood, and I cut pieces of wood. So basically, your what is this? Let's call it left. Left eye. Is that Yes. So your left eye would look into the binoculars. It would hit a mirror at 45 degrees. It would shoot over this way, hit another mirror at 45 degrees, and shoot out the front. Same thing with the right eye. You'd go a little further than this one. It would reflect over to a mirror that's over here. So you have to offset the mirrors. So, and what it does is pretty interesting. When you get it lined up right and it's working, it reverses the depth of things. And it's a really interesting phenomenon, meaning that if you put, let's say you take a red brick and you put it on like the floor, let's pretend you have like a linoleum floor or wood floor or something like that, and then you look at it through the binoculars, it doesn't look like a brick anymore. It looks like an orange hole, an orange rectangular hole in the floor, because it reverses your perception of depth for some reason. It's really neat. I really should throw another pair of those together, but I need, again, the same thing I need for you, better mirrors. Although I don't need one-way mirrors for this, just regular old mirrors will work. And I know I've talked about this thing before on the thing, and I haven't gotten to it. Look, this is one of those projects, the binoculars thing, where it's like, it's doesn't really matter when I build it. Once I build it, it's like, it's really neat. Like, I can show it to people and be like, that's really cool. I'm surprised they're not mass produced, because it's an interesting little novelty. I don't know if your eyes would get used to it after a while, because like you know what things are supposed to look like. Interestingly, I'm 99% sure this is true, and now I have to build it to make sure that this next part is true. What's interesting is it doesn't do it to faces. For some reason, the way your brain is wired, you recognize faces in a different way, and the binoculars do not hollow out a face. Your face remains the same. So when you're looking at a face, the face doesn't do that reversal thing like all other objects do. Like your body gets hollowed out, things like that, but the face remains protruding. So, yeah, now I've got to build one and show you. Dag nabbit. Yeah, so I got onto a bent about project. Tired all the time. Like, I don't know that I'm not getting enough sleep. Probably what it is, but like, again, just things are stressful. Work is stressful. There's a lot of projects going on, and like that's a big focus right now. Like I'm doing some work at home, so kind of my mind is just focused on work, not really anything else, which probably isn't healthy, and it's probably slowly killing me. But another reason why not making these videos, they just end up being boring because I have nothing to talk about. Interestingly though, the past few times that I've been to Dunkin' Donuts, you know how I say every time they give me a coffee, the mouth part is lined up on the seam? That hasn't been the case since I haven't been filming. So we're about to pull up to Dunkin' Donuts, and I need a coffee, even though I slept for 10 hours, maybe 10 hours, something like that, something crazy. I still need coffee. I still need that. Like, there's a difference. Like, I can be awake, but I can tell I still have the due to my addiction to caffeine, I still have the brain fog, and I'm not really forming thoughts or keeping track of what I meant to talk about.
What can I get for you?
Hi, could I have a large black coffee, please?
Okay. Is that everything?
That's it.
317.
All right. Good morning. No, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
See, it's this weird phenomenon. What is this? There's the spout, there's the seam. It seems to only happen when I'm filming it. How bizarre is that? It's wonder if it's in any way related to Douglas Adams and so there's what I'm doing is I'm talking about kind of cross-linking Brownian motion and quantum physics and the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, where, like, you know, unless it's observed, you would be the observer. I'm not a real event. I'm the event. I'm not an observer. You're the observer. Who you calling an observer? The point is that the thing doesn't happen unless it's being observed, and that's kind of a joke. Like I said, Brownian motion in T is a reference to Douglas Adams as to how the infinite improbability drive works, and just kind of crossing that with the quantum effect thing. And it's funny that now that I'm filming, they do it exactly like that. I doubt there's any kind of training, and it probably doesn't. It's only happened to me a couple of times, probably because I try not to let it line up like that. But when the spout is lined up with the seam on the cup, sometimes, not always, sometimes it'll dribble around the lid and, you know, drip on you and stuff like that. So it's probably not something they're trained on or anything like that. So it's not that they're doing anything wrong. They're expecting the lid to fit nicely and stuff like that. But it's been my experience that if the seam lines up with the part that you drink through, it's more likely to dribble on you than if it's in any other configuration. Wow, there's a lot of words for no reason at all. Holy crap. Do I know how to over-explain something or not? So anyway, the upshot is I get to show the video to my wife and say, look, there it is. Every time. It's not every time. It's only when I'm filming it. So now I have my coffee. I'm slightly happier. I can smell my coffee, but I can't drink it yet because it's too hot. Oh, it smells good. It doesn't always smell good. It's another bizarre thing I complain about. I'm not really a coffee snob, although I might appear to be one. But the lack of consistency in the coffee bothers me. Coming from the guy who is not very good at making coffee at home, I grind. I need a better coffee grinder. What I use, man, am I stammering a lot? What I use to grind my coffee is a Magic Bullet. I don't even know if they still. I think they still make those, but yeah, it's a Magic Bullet. So I use the smaller cup and the flat blade, and I fill the thing halfway up. Like I'll do a canister amount at a time. Like fill the canister, keep grinding beans till I have a full canister, so I have ground coffee. Because I buy it in bean form and I grind it myself, which I don't know. Maybe that's dumb. I don't know. I just have this sense that the coffee will be better if it's ground closer to the time that I use it. But anyway, the point is, I'm not very consistent with that. And I don't think you can be without a proper coffee grinder, like a pepper grinder. You can select the grain size, but with a Magic Bullet, you run it until you get to what you think is the right consistency. But it's never going to be. You're not going to have a good consistency throughout. And what happens is you get really, really fine particles. which aren't, I don't really think they're conducive to like just a regular drip brew coffee like I have. And then what I've noticed is sometimes like whole messes of entire beans make it through my process. So so I got everything from coffee dust to coffee beans when I try to grind my own coffee with a magic bullet. I could go longer, but then the quantity of dust is higher, and I ended up with more of the coffee sludge making it into the pot. That might be able to be eliminated if I went to a paper filter instead of the stainless steel mesh filters that I use, but I prefer the stainless steel mesh filters because they're non-disposable. You can just empty them out, rinse them, and they're ready to go. Goes on like this. So, yeah, anyway, the flavor of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, it tends to be a little inconsistent, at least at that store. Goes anywhere from, like today, pretty good smelling coffee to ashtray. Interestingly, when I pulled up today, like I've often complained about, not that I dislike the food at Dunkin' Donuts, but the smell of the food, them prepping the food, the combination of smells is, to me, it's off-putting. So I very rarely, like when I'm going in the morning, I'll very rarely order food at Dunkin' Donuts, even though, you know, their sausage, egg, and cheese muffin isn't bad. It's just the smell of the stuff cooking is something, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't smell good. But there was none of that food smell today, which was interesting. So why am I making this video today? I think mainly because I haven't made one in a while, and like I said at the beginning, I feel like I'm more I don't understand the reason, but I feel more motivated to get stuff done when I talk about my plans in this format. Probably because I'm like there's, in the back of my mind somewhere, there's this audience. Even if that audience is me, if I don't do what I said I was going to do in the video, I feel like I'm letting someone down. So I kind of, just for that reason alone, I kind of want to make videos. Yep. And another thing is, I said I would keep making these videos. So even if I don't have content, I will keep making them. There's I know the road's closed up ahead. I already have my GPS going. Slept for 10 hours, and I had a lot of weird dreams. Like, I'm really on the fence as to whether or not I should talk about my dreams. It's like really personal. Not that I don't discuss personal stuff here, but they're just like, you know, I'll preface it with like, it was a really weird dream, but unfortunately, like a lot of the weirdness factor in dreams comes from feelings you have in the dream. So it amplifies it. If I just talk about the people that were in the dream, the scenery, what was going on, it'd be like, well, that doesn't seem that weird, but it is. So I won't get into it. Maybe if my viewer wants to know about my weird dream, I'll tell him, but I don't really think he would care. It's just a dream, just something I found disturbing that'll wear off as the day goes on, and by the end of the day I probably won't even remember it. That's what's great about weird dreams. Sometimes you forget them. One of the things I was thinking about, I've got a couple of friends. Actually, I thought about this after I woke up. I will mention the reason I'm thinking about this is because these people were in my dream. Neris and her friend who visited my house. Neris's Margaritaville machine is still at my house, and I'd like to return that to her at some point because she's living in a new house now. I don't think she gifted it to me. She just left it there, I think, fully intending to visit more often and have margaritas, and that just really hasn't happened. We don't seem to have the parties we thought we were going to have at my place. So I'd like to return that to her with a couple of bottles of tequila, like a Jose Cuervo and maybe a much higher end one for drinking, not in margaritas. And then I feel like I owe her friend a nice bottle of scotch as well. So I'd like to accomplish that at some point. Maybe I'll bring them over my house for a party and then gift it to them there. That'll teach them. The reason you don't hear the GPS rambling on endlessly is because I have it set to alerts only. So every once in a while I gotta glance and make sure I'm still on the route. I mean, I know how to get to work. I've done it before, but I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for a faster route. I mean, I'm not going the fastest route, obviously, at this point. I haven't jumped on the highway. Because the highway is significantly longer and it has tolls. Longer miles-wise, as I've talked about before. If I take the back roads, it's shorter, but it takes longer. And it's not that much longer, so it's worth taking the back roads. Unfortunately, there's a road that's closed up here, and I really haven't spent the time researching how to get around it without getting on the highway, so I just let the GPS take me to the turnpike at that point. So there's that. There's a so I don't know. I think I showed the yeah, I know I did. Probably not a good view, but a couple months ago we expanded the duck pen. We have 6 ducks now. I showed that we put the 2 duck runs together and made one large duck run. We have a roofing system on there. It's not great. It was pretty good when we first put it up. It stays up there. The problem is, due to bad planning, the seam between the two, like the one run we have came with I bought the roof that goes with it. When you have it set up in the 10x5 configuration, there's a canvas roof that goes on top. So we have that on top, attached on one side, kind of attached on the other side, and that works great. That keeps the area underneath it dry. But because we have a corrugated roof system on the other section, going away from that, where they meet up, and the way we have it up, water is tending to accumulate on the corrugated system, and where the two systems meet, there's a leak there. So we have a plan on how to fix that. We're going to attach the canvas to where it's supposed to be attached, to the far side, and then the corrugated system is going to be up above that. There's still going to be a leak in between the two systems. Right now, I have the supports for the corrugated system going not parallel, the opposite of parallel, like across. So they're going across underneath. I'm going to change that so that they go in line with the corrugated, so they can't belly and accumulate water. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a section of like gutter or opened up PVC or an opened up downspout along the seam between the two, and basically use it as a gutter to capture any of the water that falls in between the two systems and just run it out before it drips on the ground inside the duck house. Maybe this weekend we'll do that. It should be a pretty quick project. It's been raining the past few days, so it's crazy muddy out there, and I don't want to do this while it's like insanely muddy and slippery and raining. So we put some temporary fixes in place. I had an old aluminum pole that used to be part of a thing that you use to scoop leaves out of a pool. So we use that to like just add more support to the corrugated section until we get out there and we do the redesign, which will probably be this weekend, or this weekend and next weekend. But it shouldn't take long. I know exactly what I want to do. The hardest part is going to be attaching the little piece of gutter underneath the two roofs the way I want to. Everything else is just like a couple of minutes. Might have to detach and reattach some zip ties, but other than that, it's there's not much work. We just have to turn the uprights, maybe buy a couple of 2x4s or 1x4s or something like that. 1x2s. The smaller the board, the better. Because I'd like it to fit in the channel of the corrugated. I'll take a picture of what I'm doing and I'll put it on both channels. It's good coffee today. What else is going on? Don't know. Feel the coffee coursing through my veins. So I've noticed my viewer has been doing a lot of home improvements. It looks really nice. Kind of jealous. My viewers, I think he's updated his kitchen and his bathroom. Like makes me feel lazy. It's like takes me forever to get a project done. That's one of the things I desperately want to get done is a remodel and redesign of my kitchen. I keep thinking the way it's laid out is like the people who lived there, I believe they remodeled. I don't want to say remodeled because it's not the right word, but they remodeled their kitchen 3 times. And apparently all 3 times it was exactly the same. They updated the cabinets and the surfaces, but the design was exactly the same. And I don't feel like it's a really efficient design. And unfortunately, it's a very custom house. And what's in it right now are older appliances. So my biggest problem, like I wouldn't mind keeping the existing cabinets, but the countertops are fiberboard with laminate over them, so they're done. The sink is done. It's barely holding together. Like the whole support for the faucet is rusted out. You can like wiggle the whole thing. So I'm being very ginger with it. I've been very ginger with it for a couple of years now because I don't feel like spending the money to remodel the kitchen. Ouch, hot. And I know I could just replace the sink, but I don't want to replace the sink and not replace the countertop. So anyway, the point was that my biggest issue, what is this? Is this Pico or is this a cup? I think it's Pico because it doesn't have an MG tag. Biggest issue is the refrigerator. Like, in order to keep the cabinets, I would have to get a refrigerator of the same size, and I definitely don't want that size refrigerator. It's an older refrigerator, and that's not a standard footprint anymore. It's too small for my needs. What I really want, and so, like, I know they make these like nice high-end Viking refrigerators and stuff like that with the double doors and stuff like that. And this might be a really, really bad idea, but I think it's a good idea. It's I don't know if I've seen it on Pinterest. I don't know where I saw it, but it's brilliant. So I want to get 2 refrigerators exactly the same. Not low end, but they don't have to have all that stuff on the door because I don't really need it. I don't need water on the door. I don't need ice on the door. I've got filtered water from the faucet, and I refill my own water bottles with filtered tap water. So it's just another thing to go wrong with a refrigerator. Like I've had them. I have them in my rental properties. The ice part goes bad. Like everything's made as cheaply as possible nowadays. So like the fewer extra gadgets you have on the thing, the better. And like I said, it might be a mild convenience, but when it doesn't work, or if it springs a leak, blah blah blah, it's just a big pain in the neck. So anyway, point is, it looks really elegant. You get two matched refrigerators. You put the doors the opposite way, and then you get what is essentially, it looks like a double door refrigerator. I mean, yes, you have the seam in the center, but you can get a smaller form factor refrigerator for less money. You can get two of them. I definitely want the freezer on the bottom. If I can get two refrigerators where one is a freezer and the other one's a refrigerator, that would be awesome too. I've got like a 7 cubic foot deep freezer downstairs. That's obviously much better than an upright freezer, because an upright freezer, when you open it, all the cold air falls out immediately and is replaced with warm ambient air. But I would be perfectly happy with two refrigerators with the freezer on the bottom. So, yeah. So the reason it upsets me is because the woodwork in the house is insane. So everything is custom. Like there's a lot of the house are these like large white stones, like bricks, but they're really long and whatever. And of course they have these. They're rough faced. Actually, I think it's the same material that the local school's made out of. Anyway, the point is, like, they've actually cut the trim and stuff to fit like a puzzle piece into the brick. They've done it throughout the house. They've done it with the molding. I think I've mentioned this before. There's a lot of finishes. Like when I remodel certain areas, I don't really want to remove certain features. Like around the fireplace in the what we call the party room. I'm never going to remove the paneling from directly around the fireplace, because they've done the same thing there. They've literally cut the paneling in such a way that it fits right up against the brick. Someone like went to the trouble of tracing out the odd shape of the bricks and then the mortar joints in between, and they have the paneling butted right up against it. It's phenomenal. It's a really nice touch, and I can't bring myself to get rid of it. The rest of the room, I've been pulling the paneling down, putting up insulation, and drywalling over that. But yeah, the areas where they've like put the work into that kind of craftsmanship, I can't bring myself to pull that down and just drywall and caulk it into place for a smooth transition. It's just like so much, just feels bad. Someone worked really hard on those finishes. I guess in theory, like I was very careful when I removed the paneling. So after I don't think the house is way too dark. So I keep toying with the different ideas, and one of them that was just going through my head, which is really dumb, is like after I get the insulation and the sheetrock up and completed, I could put the paneling back over it. But why? It's really nice paneling. It's really thick, old style paneling. But it's dark brown. Like the house is just too darn dark to begin with. I don't know. Maybe after I get the lighting situation in that room figured out, it's a possibility that I could put the paneling back up. I don't know. I'll put a poll up. I'll let you the viewer, vote. Is this where the road is normally closed? No, I think it's down further. Yeah, I'm seeing signs that the road's closed up ahead. So yeah, came home, got home around 5-ish, had a bowl of soup, went downstairs, was asleep before 6 o'clock. Yeah, so I was like, slept for 10 hours last night. Still tired. But not as tired as I usually am. Usually I'm very drag-assy. Weird the things I choose to talk about and the things I don't talk about. Like it's me, so you'd think I'd have a good understanding of me, but I really don't know why I'll talk about certain things and I won't talk about others. It's obviously I'm thinking about things that I'm not going to talk about, and I'm talking through why I'm not talking about them, but it'd be much better if I said nothing. The stress at work is just going to be vagaries, so it doesn't really matter. But it's caused by the fact that, like I said, my job's pretty stressful to begin with, and now I'm in charge of an A3. It takes time out of my day. Plus, one of my coworkers recently left, and another coworker who is a lot like me has a lot of responsibilities. She's on vacation as well, and I've just picking up a lot of slack where I don't really have the time to, and I know I'm falling further and further behind on different things like email requests and just whatever it is I do at work. I'm not getting all of it done because there's just too much other stuff going on. Other people, unrelated to the people I just mentioned, not pulling their weight and having to do stuff because they won't as well. That's a problem that I think is being dealt with, but not fast enough for my liking. Although I get paid overtime when I work overtime. I don't like to work overtime. I try very, very hard to get all of my duties done during the day, during the week. I try everything I can not to work overtime, but this past weekend I had to put in 4 hours of overtime just to keep up with the extra workload. I didn't get ahead. Still always feel like I'm slipping further and further behind, but I had to put 4 hours in on a Saturday just to get done the extra stuff that needed to be done. And I didn't get it all done either. I just did what absolutely needed to be done. So when the person comes back from vacation, they're not completely bombarded with, because one, I definitely don't want them to be overwhelmed and quit, because I don't want to have to do both jobs. I believe hers is probably more difficult than mine. It shouldn't be. It is because of the human factor I was talking about, people not doing what they're supposed to do. I'm sure that's the same thing happens everywhere. Or maybe not everywhere, but a lot of places. I can stop talking about work. I'm going to be there in a few minutes. Still looking for a contractor for the Philadelphia area. can't believe how hard it is to find people that can do, that are willing to do work, that are competent. I've talked about this before, I used to have a contractor, had a good relationship for a long time. He wasn't necessarily the best, but he, if he didn't do a good job, he would come back and make it right. We ended up parting ways in a pretty bad situation. I won't get into it. He just he kind of screwed us over, and it turned out he screwed up. Here's where the road's closed, and he screwed up some other people. I think he got in trouble, lost his house, blah blah blah. Like to the point where not to us, he kind of screwed us over. He did a really bad job on our roof, charged us for it, then disappeared, and we had to redo the roof. And it's a big house, it's a big roof, so you can imagine we had to spend a lot of money for him to do the roof, and then to fix it was another ridiculous sum of money. So yeah, we're out that money. We're never getting that back. That was so obviously we're done with that guy. This was a while ago. Yeah, and we still haven't found a good contractor. I've got a name of a guy, but that might end up being a weird situation too, because it's related to the janitorial people I have at work, and coming back. Everything relates back to work. Which reminds me, I gotta find out. I don't know if my boss ever answered me on that quote. Yeah, I gotta stop thinking about work. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm going right into work mode and I'm not even there yet. Now that I'm off the beaten path, now that we're on the detour, I gotta keep glancing at the GPS. The other day, even though I wasn't doing a monologue, I wasn't paying attention, and I think right about here, instead of turning, I went straight, and I didn't get lost. I had my GPS, but you lose time when you don't follow the route that they're telling you to follow. You kind of just get into the habit, especially when it's dark like this. Like, I have slight night blindness, so I can see the road. I can see where the headlights are. I can see all the shiny signs that they're nice enough to put up that reflect and stuff like that. But it's, there's a canopy of trees, so I'm basically driving through blackness. And what happens is it's very easy to get hypnotized by the taillights in front of you, and I'll end up following the vehicle in front of me, not really thinking about where I'm supposed to go because I'm unfamiliar. But I don't like my GPS talking to me constantly, even when I'm not recording, which obviously lately has been most of the time. They're too verbose, and I don't know how to turn that down, and I just don't like the constant chatter of the GPS saying things like 2, 3, 4 times before you get to that turn. So I'd rather risk it, drive in complete silence, and just glance over at the GPS every once in a while. It does, say, right now it's 0.6 of a mile, I'm going to be making a left. So it's not like I have to constantly look at it. It's like, do I turn here? Do I turn there? This is completely unrelated to anything. I made breakfast the other day. I'm more prone to make breakfast on the weekends, obviously. Made scrambled eggs. We have ducks, so we have unlimited eggs. 5 females, 1 male. But now we still have the 3 Muscovy, and I can't remember what the other ones are called. There's a white one, which is not a Muscovy, and 2 black ducks. One of the black ducks is the male. And they lay tiny eggs. So it's funny, we have the Muscovy eggs, which are these ridiculously honking eggs, significantly bigger than your extra large chicken eggs that you get in the supermarket. And then we've got these black duck eggs. The eggs are all white. We don't have any fancy colors, but the eggs themselves are tiny, like tiny than the small eggs that you get in the supermarket. So it's a weird mix of eggs. Anyway, the point is, I made scrambled eggs, 3 big, 3 small, and I throw cheese in it, a little bit of yogurt, some milk, cook it down. It's pretty good. And it's more food. Like, and I made sausages too. It's more food than we can eat, so there's leftovers. Anyway, it turns out that that's a great thing to throw in your lunch. Like the leftovers, I threw them in this little plastic cup with a couple links of sausage on top, sealed it. I ended up taking it to lunch on Monday, and that was a delicious breakfast. I'm thinking I should do that every week. I should make more, and I should throw 5 to 10 of those little containers in the fridge for me and my wife to heat up during the week for breakfast. Like, go to work, throw it in the nuker for a minute, and it was actually pretty good. We've been trying to think of ways to long-term storage. Like I've said before, I pickle. Generally, when we do egg processing once a month, I'll pickle 20 eggs, 22 eggs, and put them into jars. And that'll be something that I'll take to lunch, like an egg a day kind of thing, as a pickled egg snack. But we've been trying to figure out other ways, and recently we landed on something we saw, which is making kind of like egg McMuffins. You make a sheet of eggs and cut them up into slices, and then you package them and freeze them. I got to watch some more videos. I wanted to see what the best way to do it is, because we want to avoid freezer burn and stuff like that. I think what they were doing is they were wrapping them in paper and then tin foil, but I'll find some videos on it and see how well that works. I'll test it with a couple first, because I don't want to waste a ton of food if it doesn't really store that well. Can't trust every video you see. The reason we want to do that is, one, so we have, we don't want to waste them. We end up having a little bit of waste because it's hard to get through all the eggs they produce. Like when we first got the Muscovies, and I think they're still doing this during the laying season, they'll get about an egg a day per chicken, and there is no way to burn through that many eggs. So definitely want to store them for when it's not laying season. Pickling them makes them last quite a while. They never go bad. I end up eating all of those before they go bad. But I'm the only one that eats pickled eggs. Nobody else really likes them. Well, completely blew past the 22-minute mark. Probably in this one in an hour. So now we're on the turnpike. Like I said, that road's been closed for a few weeks now. Some kind of road work on 73. Of course, it diverts me here, and I don't feel like looking for a path that's not a turnpike. Turnpike West was, like, I got home, I already said when I got home, but I thought I was going to be much later because the Turnpike West, like, I got off at Valley Forge on the way home, but a lot of people, they need to continue straight, so it ended up being this huge traffic jam. Fortunately, I got out of and was able to get off at Valley Forge, but I feel bad for everybody who was traveling west on the Turnpike. I don't know what happened. All I saw was the sign that says Turnpike West is closed. So I'm guessing those people were just trapped there until whatever happened yesterday got cleared up. Pardon me. Here's something I won't go into deep detail about, but I'd like to talk to my viewer about it. I know he might be a little leery of business ideas, but I definitely need somebody to bounce ideas off of. And it has to do with clothing. It has to do with the fact that I'm older and I have things that go wrong with people as they get older, like hands and things like that. And I came up with a really good idea for a style of clothing that I want to bounce off of him and see what his thoughts are on it. No, it's not a muumuu. Although they look amazingly comfortable. Say too much on here because this is clearly a multi-$100 idea. And I'm literally shocked that it's not currently a thing, and it might be for a very obvious reason that I'm overlooking. That's why I need to bounce it off a smart guy like my viewer. There is a thought hiding from me in my head right now. Like, I want to end this video with, like, silly little, like, you learn these things, like, over the years, all these little tips and tricks. I want to stick one in here at the end, and there's one that I used recently that I learned, and I can't remember what it is. And I remember thinking this would be a good little filler for the silly videos I make. But it's so ingrained in what I do, I'm completely forgetting what it was. It's just... nothing stupid like opening a can with a spoon. Not that that's stupid, just something... It's not getting something out of a pole. What the heck was it? trying to think of all the things I've done over the past few weeks. I'm drawing a blank here. It's weird. Like, the thought is there that, like, there's this hack, but I can't remember what the fucking hack was. One that I haven't talked about before. Not how to open a banana. Slicing tomatoes. It's gonna drive me crazy. Bottles. Well, I'm not going to think of what it is, but I'm going to give you this one instead. So, we buy fresh fruit a lot, and I think I might have shared this one before, but it doesn't matter. So we buy fresh fruit a lot. So every once in a while we get a problem in the kitchen with little fruit flies or gnats or whatever they are, and a nice way to get rid of these, and it works, is you get yourself a jar with an opening roughly this size. Get yourself a coffee filter. Poke a tiny, tiny little hole in the center of the coffee filter. Push the coffee filter. Well, put some apple cider vinegar or red wine or something like that into the bottom of the jar. If you have a little piece of fruit or a little piece of food handy, drop that in there too. Fruit works the best. It'll attract them. Then you push the cone with the point, basically it can be at the bottom or slightly offset, but you put the coffee filter in there so the tiny little hole that you poked in it is at the bottom. It has to be big enough for a fruit fly to get through. And you put a rubber band around the thing to hold the coffee filter in place. What happens is it attracts the fruit flies. They climb, they're attracted to the fruit or the wine or vinegar smells, and they climb inside, and they can't fly back out that hole, and they almost never get back to the hole. So what'll happen is it will attract all the fruit flies, and you'll end up with them in there. It'll just attract the fruit flies. You'll end up with a jar with all the fruit flies in it, and then you can just take it outside and replace it. Remember to actually replace it after like a few days, because if you don't, they will start to build a society inside that jar, and it will freak you out. True story. I made that mistake. I put one up there. It was kind of out of sight on the upper counter, like I got the table and the counter. So I did it. It got rid of all the fruit flies. But then when I noticed it, it had been sitting there for probably a couple weeks. And they had built a whole new society in there. There was like lots of growth from the fruit that was in there. And there was like a whole mess of fruit flies. They must have mated, and a couple generations had been created, so I had to take that outside and deal with it. So there's a little hack, but I think I've shared that hack before, but I can't remember the one I want to share, so you're stuck with that one. Close to the exit to mess with the stop button. Kind of navigate here, but as soon as I get off the turnpike, I will end the video. We're about a mile away, but I gotta remain alert because there's a bunch of Charlie Weavers out here who are desperate to get to work. roads and stuff like that. And there's a certain time of day where it goes from dark mode to light mode. And I don't know if that's triggered by time or if there's a sensor that shows how bright it is outside. Another project that I want to work on, I've talked about this for the past couple years. I have old style windows in my house. I think they're Anderson, but you crank them. They're real tall. You crank them, and they come out like this. They open like this, so they're real tall. They open, and they've got the built-in screens, but they're not terribly efficient. I don't know if they're single pane or double pane, but if they are double pane, they lost their seal decades ago. So I came up with an idea. Instead of replacing the windows, which would be extremely expensive, because I don't want to just put regular windows in the house. I like the windows they have, and they're, it's not a standard. Like, you couldn't just put. It would look terrible. It would look absolutely horrible if I just put like regular double pane, like up and down windows in there. And to replace them with the exact same style of window would be extremely expensive. So for the winter, I had this idea. I wanted to design boxes with, basically a box with kind of almost like a storm window on the outside. It would be a box with a piece of plexiglass attached to it that I would attach to the house over the window, because besides the house not being insulated, one of the issues is the windows aren't insulated. So it's, the previous owners used to spend a buttload of money to heat the house over the winter. Mind you, they kept their house really warm, unlike us. But they went through, I want to say, between 2.5 and 4,000 gallons of fuel oil just
red light and speed limit camera ahead.
Just in order to keep the house heated in the winter. But like I said, they kept their house a lot warmer than we do. My wife keeps the house around 60 in the winter.
45 mile per hour speed limit camera ahead.
But I think that would be a worthwhile project to keep the house slightly